Good morning, everyone. We today at Womenite are going to discuss about an ill-fated social issue of our country, child sexual abuse. The recent studies reveal that one out of every three girls in India has faced some sort of child sexual abuse, maybe in school premises or in other areas, and even having an involvement of a family member. Well, it is as pitiable to hear as the crime is. So, starting this module on child sexual abuse, let me start by saying what exactly is child sexual abuse? According to the World Health Organization, child sexual abuse is the involvement of a child in sexual activity that he or she does not fully comprehend, is unable to give consent to, or that violates the law of social norms of the society. Child sexual abuse is prevalent across the complete globe. But in today's discussion, I am going to talk about India, a network of deprivations and vulnerabilities, poverty, age, gender, caste, lack of safe places, lack of schools, lack of proper institutional care for children without functional families create situations where children are sexually exploited in India. It is important to understand the kinds of social and legislative circumstances that allow for may and even be a reason for sexual abuse. A very shocking fact is that many get their children married at a young age to protect them from sexual abuse. Once a girl attains puberty, she's seen as, as sexually available. For some parents, marriage is the only way to ensure that the girl is unavailable to others. Children who work as domestic laborers in hotels, in restaurants, are susceptible to attacks of sexual abuse. In addition to these, children cross caste and class lines are vulnerable within their families to abuse from relatives, friends of the family. As a society, it is important that the sexual exploitation of children is fundamentally about power. For instance, in the case of a 15-year-old girl who was raped by a policeman in Mumbai, shows clearly how both power and lack of collude to render children unavailable, to vulnerable. The victim is from a poor family and was to be held by the person who took her for sexual exploitation. Her assaulter was not only male and adult, but also a policeman, someone considered very powerful in our country, and someone meant to protect us from such heinous crimes. As we can see that the children are traumatized, so why is it that they still don't tell and talk about their abuse? This is mainly because in India, children are taught to respect their elders and not speak up about something that the elder has done to them. Other reason why children keep mum are because of the relationship with the offender. They do not want to put the abuser into trouble or face shame in the society. The child is confused between the behaviors of adult who is caring at times or when he is doing such a heinous crime. Very often the child thinks he is to blame for the bad and is being punished this way. He is too ashamed or embarrassed to tell about this to anyone. He feels no one will believe him. It is commendable how people like Kalki Koechlan, Anurag Kashyap, and Anushka Shankar have spoken about how they were sexually abused as a child to spread awareness about the issue in the society. Moving on to the consequences of child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse victims usually carry this trauma throughout their lives. Depending on the seriousness of the situation, the abuse effects can vary in psychological, social, sexual, physical, as well as mental forms. Psychologically, the person can report panic attacks, seizures, depressions, fears, sleeping problems, nightmares, etc. when something has happened to them. They have low self esteem, they feel ashamed to go in the society, and have less confidence and mental issues. They may resort to self destructive techniques or some procedures like addictions or even prostitutions. Socially, they are not able to trust others and they do not have satisfying relationships. In school premises, in institutional areas, and even in family groups, they are seen with a shame or a sense of hatred. They may deliberately get into relationships where they'll be abused, felt ashamed about, and always made to be felt at a lower pedestal than others. Now, bringing to you certain myths and facts about child sexual abuse. First myth: only strangers abuse child sexually. Well, the fact is, danger from strangers is only a small part of the problem. Research evidence would over indicates that in majority of cases, more than 85% of the cases, the child's relative, family, friends, or someone known of the child is involved. The second myth: both women and men sexually abuse children. Well, the fact is, an overwhelming majority of those who sexually abuse children is men, although women are the ones who spend most time with children. Only a small minority of women report to have been abused by children. Myth 3: men who sexually abuse child are mentally sick or pervert. Fact: unfortunately, the men who sexually abuse children are very often ordinary, respectable men holding position of responsible pedestal in the society, workplace, and family are also the doer of abuse. The next myth: when children say they have been abused, it is often a figment of their imagination or fantasy. Most times, children are unable to disclose or talk about the abuse. In rare instances, when they do talk, it is not their imagination or it is not a fictitious fantasy. Children need to be believed and supported, and the matter should be looked into with serious grievance and consequences because such a instance is not just a pure story or maybe imagination of child. It actually has dire consequences and the child need to be supported in such cases. Moving on to the next myth: only beautiful or sexually precious child are abused. Well, all children, irrespective of their age, color, family background, sexual knowledge, are vulnerable to abuse. They are perceived as easy targets because of the power of the abuser and the less power of the child. Or they think that the child will be easily dominated and the report of such an instance will never come out. Well, they actually think wrong. Next, myth number 7: children enjoy being touched sexually. That is the reason they do not report abuse. The fact is, a majority of the children before the puberty are actually not aware what sort of abuse is or what actually is being happening to them when abuse is taking place. Well, they need to be supported, and such a mentality should not be carried. Next myth: we can tell if a child is sexually abused. Children are experts at hiding their pain. It is difficult to say from external appearance if the child has been abused. Generally, the trauma is mental, and the child hardly discloses about such an issue. Adults need to be alerted about such an instance. They need to keep on looking whether a child has actually, is in he child may be underconfident. He might not come out from rooms for days. He might not talk. He might not be that friendly, or he might be not coming out with what has happened to him. And even in schools, his behavior might not like normal children. So if teachers or guardians uh, find out about such a situation with a child, they need to disclose, they need to discuss about it. And the last myth: boys cannot be abused. Although more girls are reported to be sexually abused, Research indicates that every seven boy in the world has fallen prey to child sexual abuse. Moving on, there are three pillars of child sexual abuse. They are prevention, intervention, and rehabilitation. First, prevention. Parents, teachers need to educate the child about child sexual abuse, how to prevent it, and what the children need to do. They need to give age appropriate sex education and explain about appropriate touch and the inappropriate touch. Here I would like to point out that Womenite has been conducting such workshops in schools at various localities in Delhi to discuss with children and to make them more aware about any instance of abuse, how to identify, how to report it, and how to tackle if such a situation is there. Intervention by a trusted adult or institution is required to repair the damage caused. Next comes rehabilitation, where again a trusted adult or a guardian may play his part. The foremost thing that an adult can do is to believe the child, morally support him, and provide him in the assistance to come out and speak about such an issue. You know, children will rarely disclose of instance of an abuse because they might find it painful, terrifying, or embarrassing. Let the child know that you're willing to listen patiently to whatever they have to speak, however painful it might be. Here, the person needs to provide an environment to chill to the child which he can be comfortable with and felt understood and have that support. Most importantly, view the person as someone strong and come to help him boost his morale, boost his self confidence. It is important that the child needs to be helped to overcome the abuse by trained professionals who is unthreatening and the child can regain control over himself or herself. This is done through various play methods or through various creative arts like dance, drama, or drawing. No child should be made to go through the trauma and suffer all his life for a fault which was never his. It is time, as adults, as responsible as adults, the citizens of this country, and the guardians of the future of tomorrow, to protect our children to be alert, aware, and stop child sexual abuse. Womenite has constantly been working in this area, always supporting abuse victims, helping their families and the schools to arrange workshops so as to make the child more aware about such an instance and feel more confident, come out of the trauma, and have a positive outlook towards life, beginning the life in a happy mode, in a confident mode, with a new dimension. I want you all to join with Womenite to support this cause, as Womenite will always work in this direction and in many other fields for women empowerment and to uplift the status of women in this country. Thank you for joining with me. Hope to see you live in the next Hangout. Thank you.